Okay, Miguel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The budget for transportation for 2012, the request is generally well below the 2011 request on most items, with a couple of exceptions that I'll highlight, and then I'll open it up to any questions that you may have, or as we go through, if it's your desire to you have any questions that I can answer, I can certainly do that. But the two items where the request is higher for 2012 than 2011 are basically two components of the same project. As a result of our consolidation into a Department of Transportation, we, in the move to Old Covington, gathered the information that had been stored in many different offices and closets, if you will, everywhere, and took it over there. And what we found is that we may have in excess of 50 boxes of records that have been accumulated over the last many, many years that we have to sort through and be able to dispose of what's not needed and consolidate some of the records into the project records that we have to keep. As you may know, the project records for transportation have to be kept a minimum of 3 years after the project is completed. So as we go through the design phase, it may take us 5-7 years of design information. We have those files, and then when the project is let, and we gather the information for all of the construction records, when the project is closed out by GDOT, that's when the clock starts for us to begin either 3 year if it's state funded or local funded, and 7 years if they're federal funds. So at this time, what I've been able to establish is that we have a lot of records that are neatly kept and in the proper sequence, the proper order, but we also have other records that are not in the same fashion.
Can you not scan or digitalize?
Eventually, that's probably something we will get. What I would like to do initially is sort and get rid of what is not pertinent.
Who's going to do that?
Well,
because you have a lot of new staff members over there. I think that sounds like you.
Well, that is one of the two items that I'm highlighting for you today. What I'm looking to do is to have a couple of interns for up to 6 months, and some of the interns will work to assist us with the records. There's also another project that we have to get going that I'm asking for assistance from interns as well, and that is the signage inventory. There is, as you know, a federal mandate that unfortunately was going to trigger effective January 1st of 2012 that requires that all signage be documented, all regulatory signage has to be reflectorized to meet the federal criteria. They have since relented as to the exact date that they need that compliance by. However, what they have indicated is they relented on the date but not on the compliance. So any signage that we replace now has to comply with the new regulations. So that's going to impact us in two areas. Number one, we still have to develop a comprehensive inventory, and that's where a couple of the interns come in. And we also have to pay more for the signage that we do use because it has to be of a higher grade. In addition to that, we have had a number of requests for signage overhead at intersections, or perhaps sometimes they're signalized intersections, sometimes they are just intersections. Those signs have to meet a different criteria, but certainly one of the elements is before you put a sign up there, you have to do an assessment of what it's going to attach to. So it's not as simple as if you have a wire overhead with the signals to get a sign that attaches to it, because you have to do the computations to make sure that the weight is going to be handled with the wind loads and all. So we are trying to respond to the need for those signs as well. And in some instances, if it's a signalized intersection, what we're looking to do, rather than a standard street sign, green, white lettering and green background, to go with the newer backlit signs. They're like a little box that hangs by the signals. Those signs certainly meet the criteria. They're illuminated from within. They have current running to it and lights that illuminate the signs. You might have seen those at a number of intersections in the area. We have them here in the county? We do not have any.
But you said in the area. I was like, wow.
No. You certainly would see them. Memorial Drive, corridors like that.
Starting at Moreland Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
What's the cost differential between the two?
It's pretty substantial. The issue with those signs is, and I'm not going to throw out any numbers, but other than to say that the ratio of cost might be 3 times as much. However, having said that, those signs are illuminated in the evening. They're much easier to see. If you have a regular sign hanging from the catenary, you see it during the daytime, and you may see it in the evening as you get closer to the intersection. But the ones that are backlit are much more visible in the distance. So most of the agencies on arterial corridors are going with that type of sign, because if you're going to have to replace what's there, you rather put up something that's more durable, safer. It'll cost more. But we would like the opportunity to also explore, if the request is going to be for a signalized intersection, to go with that type of sign. Now, of course, we are not going to be able to do that throughout the county. We're only going to be basically testing this at a number of locations. We've had some requests for regular signs, and we may do that if it's not a signalized intersection. But some of the budget request is to address that type of...
Miguel, let me ask this question about particular signage that you're proposing for the traffic signal. One of the problems we have in the county is that when there's inclement weather or a storm of any kind and a traffic signal goes out at a particular intersection, it takes us a good number of days to get that light from flashing to a standard operating mode again. If we hang these illuminated signage on that same traffic signal, will they be a part of the same? In other words, when the light goes out, will it go out too?
No.
Okay.
No, they would have a separate power supply that would not be interconnected with the signal. And in the past, probably over the last 2-3 years, perhaps 4 years, we had intersections that failed where there were a lot of issues with them, and it took a while to get the signal back together, operational. I think we've improved quite a ways since that time. However, the public does not always recognize what's on a state route versus our jurisdiction. So more recently, there's been a number of complaints about signals malfunctioning on state routes as opposed to our own. I think that whenever there's a report, well, I know that whenever there's a report for a signal that we have jurisdiction on, if it's during the daytime, we right away contact the contractor that we have to make the repairs. If it's in the evening, it goes to dispatch, and 911 will call the same contractor. So
the light at Klondike and Smyrna Road, is that under contract? Because oftentimes there's a stop sign on a bucket sitting in the middle of the intersection, and that light is flashing for a number of days after the storm has passed. And I've had numerous of calls from citizens, folks I run into the gas pump or the grocery store asking particularly about that particular intersection. Now, there are a few other intersections that have that issue as well. I believe those 2 roads I just named.
That is one of ours. We do have some intersections where it will go in flash mode, and the contractor will come out, reset it, do what they think is going to take to get it running. They will observe it, and then they go away, and then it trips a day later, a couple days later. So it's not, even though you may see it over a period of time, it's been fixed 2 or 3 times during that time period.
That happens at Smyrna and the Fork. Well, close to, like, Rockdale Baptist is right in the middle of the worst lights in town, I think.
The one I was talking about.
Yeah,
right.
because both of those lights malfunction on a regular basis. Or maybe it's just I look out that way and notice it more often,
but they do.
Quite often, yeah.
They do.
That's right. That happens all the time. I don't know what's wrong with that section. Go ahead.
Okay. So those are the things that I've requested additional funding, and I'll highlight that as we go through. The other element that I did not request, but I want you to be very cognizant of, is as we embark in the pavement maintenance program, we're going to have to take some of the crews that we have working, doing other things, and direct them to operate in the pavement maintenance arena, to the detriment perhaps, or certainly may cause some delays in doing other types of projects. There is absolutely no way that we could operate and be able to do the core business that the department is charged with without diverting some of the crews that we have doing other projects now to pavement maintenance. We have identified many roads, last count 35, that we could put the crew on, and they would spend half a day here, a day there, a couple days over there. And it is our intent to divert from whatever other programs we have going the existing crews, because we understand that in these times we're not going to have additional staffing. But that is one area that we must address as a department that no one else can. And so that is our intent. We will be phasing out of other activities or throttling back other activities.
Like stormwater.
Potentially stormwater, absolutely. Any other project to concentrate on pavement maintenance.
And let me ask you, and Chairman, I don't know if you've ever had this discussion with the sheriff, but I know that in other communities, sometimes they have trustees that can go without direct supervision of a police officer, and I was just wondering for a public right-of-ways and things like that. Sometimes people end up in jail and stay there for writing bad checks and things like that, but they might be skilled in those work areas, and that's certainly an option that they can choose to participate in. But, for something like that, I know that we have so much fencing in our community that needs to be addressed right away, and it really looks bad. Those kind of things, I know that the sheriff's been very open to helping beautify the community before, and so I don't know if that's possibly a conversation that could be that could take place to help meet. If you have 4 experienced crew members with 1 or 2 trustees, and I've seen that program work very well.
We can certainly have the conversation. There are some logistical issues we have to work through, but there's no question that we cannot continue to operate in all of the areas that we operate now and do an effective job in the core areas that we're charged with. And that's, again, that does not show in the budget request, but I want you to be aware that that is a need and a shifting of priorities that we're going to have to implement.
So right now your crews are doing what type of work in that community?
Well, we have maintenance of the right-of-ways, from the mowing to pothole repairs, to signage, to doing stormwater projects, to working in some facilities when there's a need for small project improvements, whether it be the county facility, the sheriff's facility, anywhere else. And in the past, to the extent that we have had the ability to do that, we have cooperated and we have taken on those tasks. We are going to have to throttle back on those activities and really concentrate on maintaining the county's infrastructure. And again, this is going to be the pavement, the signage, and mowing to the extent, mowing and trimming back trees and what have you, to the extent that that is related to safety. Those are going to be our core functions. If a project pops up somewhere where normally we would have addressed that in the past, we may not be able to address that. If there is a need for additional maintenance projects in stormwater, for example, we may not be able to meet that need either. So,
well, if they get their 5 crew members, they may not need your help.
Well, that would be certainly the case.
And are we getting reimbursed? Are you charging out to the enterprise fund when your staff members are helping them do work?
We do. I don't know that we charge out all of the costs, but we do allocate the staff's time and utilization of equipment and that sort of thing. Certainly, and I'll leave that to the financial gurus and experts. There are other costs such as depreciation, cost recovery, and all that we don't touch. I mean, we keep it simple. I mean, in the past we have tried to be as responsive as we possibly could to that need. But what I'm telling you is that in the future, if we are to do our core business, we will not be able to maintain that same level of effort.
Miguel, you have your own crew.
Yes.
Okay. You're not sharing a crew with no other department.
No.
You have a team of folks that's going out.
Yes.
Getting it done.
Yes.
Well, I thought you just said you shared them with stormwater.
Now, what we do is, if they have a need for a maintenance project, then our crew goes to do that project.
That's called sharing.
Well, sharing in that respect, but they're not part of the time or charge.
Right.
They are transportation crews that provide assistance to stormwater or other departments on a project-specific basis.
Well, and for Ms. Miller, I think it'd be very good to do cost accounting and like by the job.
Right, and we are.
Okay.
It was the contract that you guys just approved for our indirect. We're actually going to establish an indirect cost allocation, which will be full cost.
Okay, that'll be good.
Okay.
Commissioner, you talk about beautification and fencing. Can you give me a scenario?
Can I drive you down Irish Drive? I mean, if you go right in front of Ho Folks, I mean, it's just literally torn off. It's not going to be long before it's in the roadway and it's a danger, but you take that all the way up to Sigmund Road and it's just awful. Yeah, and this is, I know Andrew Hammer has contacted the state before because this is something I've been saying for years that it is a really big problem, and GDOT says they don't want to fix it, and I understand that, but at some point somebody needs to do something because we can't let the community get in such disrepair that it's going to be an enormous
That's what I thought you were talking about. I just wanted to read.
Yeah.
Good.
It's them again. It's these people.
Okay.
All right. Well, with that as background, again, what I'm asking for is for 2 interns for a period of 6 months, broken up partly in the administration section and partly in the engineering section. And the cost would be $15,000. The request is for $15,000 in each of those for a total of $30,000, and that would be for 2 interns for a total of 6 months, about 6 months. And that would be in addition to anything we can get through the county association that we've applied for, to the extent we can get folks from there for a month or 2, then we'll certainly utilize them as well. The other area would be in section 4270. 4270, if you look at line item 522200, repair maintenance, the request there has gone up again to address the signage issue, and particularly in this line code for.
We're looking at numbers backwards. Why is this one so different?
Well, this was different because in 2010 we restructured the department. Miguel in 2011 received.
No. You've got the numbers split where we were looking at 2012 on the right.
Well, actually, if you notice, it should be 2011, and it's not 10.
Yeah, but
Oh, I did notice that, but before where the
Column.
previous year was on the left column, now it's,
Yeah, I will just flip.
see, I was sitting here praising Miguel, going, look, you go back down.
No.
They gave us an eye test.
yeah.
Right. No, it's just later.
Yeah.
How you saying? Number 40. You said
4270.
4270.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miguel. We're just looking at within summary, so if you can just go by line item, like in general supplies, if it increased, just explain, because my traffic, engineering, and what you need from there. Does that make sense?
Sure.
We're just looking within summary, not each function.
Well, in summary, all of the line items have gone down from last year, with the exception of the two that I highlighted for you. Overall, department-wide. So, if that's the level that you're looking for, I'm done.
So if, no, you're
Thanks.
not yet.
Oh.
I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So non-exempt, you have a $30,000 increase. That's a new employee for what?
It's two.
It's
Two.
This is the interns.
those are the interns, correct?
And that. And there's no more funding in ACCG interns?
That
Still waiting.
will be, once the ACCG completes their budget process and that through civic engagement, those numbers will be coming forward. The application should be going in.
It's already gone in.
Okay, cool. Because it's going to be...
What do you think? Did you hear back from Mr. Chairman? Will we hear back from?
Right around the first of the year.
Oh, that'd be after the fact then.
Yeah.
So the interns would be about $14 an hour for 6 months?
That's correct. And if we do get them through ACOG, ACCG, those acronyms again, they're only allocated for 160 hours under that program, so you lose them after that.
Now, in terms of interns, I still encourage everyone to take a look at this. You have the Georgia School of Technology, engineering programs. We have a lot of colleges in our area. They have undergraduate programs and they have master's level programs. Master's level programs, you have master's degree individuals with engineering degrees and some in roads that do internships for a year or a year and a half. We need to explore, I continue to address with all departments, address those colleges because those students work for a grade. And I just want to encourage us to look at all, we talk about internships, look at UGA, we need to look at all these elements and see if we can develop those relationships going forward. I think
Mr. Chairman, would it be a good idea if we could mention it to our new HR director tomorrow when he comes in, but to him or his department, should I say, to kind of cast an information net out there to those local institutions and colleges to say that we're interested in hosting interns down here and at those different, whether they're graduate or undergraduate level or not. I think coming out of the information coming out of HR to those colleges would be probably the most appropriate office out of Rockdale County to reach out to those different institutions to say, hey, consider Rockdale County if you're considering placing an intern in local government.
that we have
Absolutely.
as well.
Now, let me ask you, on interns, do we have a countywide, I guess, starting point for intern salary? Because I know in some departments it's one number, some it's another. I mean, I kind of thought around $10 was what we were doing for interns, but
Yeah, I don't think
people can just pay what they want.
Well,
I can tell you, commissioners, that based on the ACCG model, I think they pay a smaller amount, $7 and some odd cents, I think, per hour. And once the county makes a decision that we will pursue those students, we find that many times they will come even at that price.
That's why it's called an internships, because they get the reward of learning new skills.
But I think that we have gone from that level all the way up to about $14, $15 an hour, depending upon whether it's an undergraduate student or if it's a graduate student, and whether the student is proficient in a particular area or if they're really just learning. There's some people who are already proficient, or they may be a master's degree student. They have worked to do stuff in an area, and they are pretty proficient at it, and it would be a lot more.
Can I tell you I have a hard problem? I have a hard time looking at a 14-hour an hour employee when we have sheriff's deputies in the jail that may not make that or much more. And it's just, I don't agree with it. I think as a policy, $10 an hour is great for interns. They get the reward of learning something in this tough economy. I mean, that alone would save you almost $9,200 just in that one area.
$10 sounds a lot better than $7 an hour. And you're absolutely right. That's why it's called an intern. When you think about the fact that they are college people, they still have to pay gas like we do. There is a win-win. We get the skill set, the expertise, the extra manpower, but at the same time, they're getting a grade toward their college education that's going to fast forward them into their field of expertise by getting this hands-on, on-the-job experience. I wouldn't insult anyone with the $7 an hour attraction all the way to Rockdale County. $10 an hour sounds fair when you talk about $10 an hour plus the grade and time that they're going to get to be able to credit toward their college experience and college degree. That makes sense. $14.
But quite honestly, I'm going to tell you, that's for an HR director to look at.
It is.
No matter what, if we have custodians making less than $10, I just don't think an intern should make more unless they have a degree or they are going to have some benefit. But if they're counting signs and logging them in and it's administrative work, to me, it's a benefit they can put on a resume. In this economy, that's a real benefit.
And you're absolutely right about HR being the person to make because when you think about an intern in an engineering field versus an intern who's probably going to help us out in another department that doesn't require such technical expertise or background, then the dollar might be justified depending on the field that we're calling that person to work in. But again, that's why we hired Mr. Bowie. He's our HR director. He can better define that.
I'll certainly defer to him.
Yeah. And again, in personnel, again, the departments are just requesting the money. It has to go through HR. They have to get a job description. Like currently, the HR director has not seen the job description for the $15,000 employee. So the HR director will identify a dollar amount based off of the the job classification.
Very good. Anything else, Miguel, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.